I think most of you guys are school psychologists, and I think you should take notes and listen to kids more because they have a lot of wisdom.
You have a lot of clock it. Good job. You did it. You did it. Welcome to Living in 3D Power, where questions matter, stories heal, and joy is our practice. I'm Dr. Amber Sessoms, and alongside my daughter Emma, we filmed this episode live at the National Association of School Psychologists 2026 Annual Convention in Chicago. Our presentation, Amplifying Child Voice Through Intergenerational Storytelling and Reflection, asked one sacred question. What would change if we treated student voice not as data to collect, but as a compass to follow? Our research is a proof of concept. If youth are our purpose, then listening differently is how we lead and how we redefine tomorrow. Welcome, y'all. So I'm telling Emma, y'all are all family, and we're just going to start this thing like we usually do with any of our podcasts. And you want to start it off, Emma? What do you usually say when you start? You say, hey, it's me, Emma. You're good. They're all here for you. It's family. Look, they already know. You want to say on the count of three? Ready? 1, 2. Breathing. She usually says, hey, it's me, Emma. Welcome to 3D Power. So today...
Living.
What?
Living.
Oh, excuse me, listen. See, okay, she corrected me, but you want to do it now? Correct me, ma'am. Correct me, ma'am. So we have a podcast, and we started this. When did we start this?
September?
Last January. It's been a year and some change, right? We started last January. It was just on a whim, and I felt the need to sit down and just talk. We always talk, but it's like, okay, let's just sit down. I said, Emma, what do you think about doing a podcast? And she's like, well, let's do it. One of your mottos is what? You tell me all the time when I get an analysis paralysis, when I don't want to do something, you say what?
Just do it.
She's like, Mommy, just do it. It's very Nike of her. So she tells me to just do it so I get out of my own way. And I will tell you, as a mother and navigating this world and this country, it has been one of the greatest blessings. I didn't realize how much I needed those conversations to really make sure that the hope that I still have and the joy that I still cultivate is still present. And she's a reminder of that every day. So we were talking, and I was like, how would you feel about going to Chicago, just like not a big deal, talking to a room full of school psychologists. I keep trying to say, you're going to be a school psychologist one day. But you said you want to be what instead? Well, before it was
Fashion design.
a fashion designer, but now it is
A model.
a model. So she just interviewed, so for the month of Black History Month, she wanted to interview Black creatives, and her exact words were that I want to help Black creatives feel seen. So Emma, you are how old?
11.
11 years old, and what grade?
5th.
5th grade. So a lot of our work is with students, it's student-centered, but I often think, I don't really see a lot of students here. Well, it's a lot to navigate that, but I think it's awesome to be able to sit and look at myself as a practitioner, but also a mother. And so we're going to talk podcast style through this and engage you in our paper. And Emma usually starts off when she does her own interview. She's switching to doing her own interviews, and I step behind the screen, and then I interject, and she's like, Mommy. I say the thing, so you want to ask your rapid fire question to the group? You got to make sure they can hear you.
Okay.
Okay, yeah, you can turn in.
What is one emotion you have to hide when you are at work?
And so you want them to, look, you see their faces. You want them to call out?
Yeah.
So y'all can just call out. What are some of the emotions that you... Wait, did I hear... Dr. Rogers said anger. There's a lot of head nodding. Anger. We heard anger. Frustration, tiredness. Yeah. Fear. I heard sadness, I think. Guilt and shame. Ooh, guilt and shame. Ooh, come on, disgruntlement. Emma loves words too. That's a good one. Disgruntlement. You know what that means? What do you think it means when you hear disgruntlement?
I don't know.
Like you just like irritable, like you're just like this world. You want to kick, don't tear it all down. Like I am so grumpy, kind of like Pop. Pop, like disgruntled, like he's just grumpy, just frustrated with the world. Yeah. Any other words? Sometimes excited. So I think you might be the only one that might have said something on the more positive side. We know feelings are not good or bad, but thinking about excited, I want you to unpack that a little bit. What's the excitement come from?
So it depends on the client that I'm seeing, right? Like maybe it's somebody who looks like me, or maybe it's a parent that I'm like, oh, I know I can help you with this. And so but it's a tough issue that they're trying to navigate. So having to like kind of pull back, like, oh, I'm so excited to help you. Let me tell you this, and this. And I have to, because they might be in tears, right? It's tough for them to navigate. So it's like I have to really hide that excitement of feeling like I'm equipped to help them and have these tools, but not wanting to overwhelm them, not wanting to give off the wrong vibe, right?
Yeah.
If you're sad and somebody comes up to you and they're laughing in your face, like, how are you gonna feel, right?
Right. And Emma's very much, if there's something coming, she will do a good back rub. She'll be like, it's okay, mommy. You do all those things, right? She is very much, she'll see someone. We were at the pool one time, right? And this little girl's crying. I said, you want to go up and make sure she's okay, right? I'm like, go ahead, do that thing. Which is why I'm like, you're just going to be, she just don't know it yet. It's in her. It's in her. But thinking about, so is there anything that stuck out to you from some of the things that they're saying? Now, these are mostly, y'all all school psychologists? School psychologists sharing those emotions. Anything that stuck out to you that they said, any emotion?
All of them.
All of them. All of them. And so did you hear a range of positive, negative, more negative?
More negative.
More negative. So what do you think about that? You understand a little bit of what school psychologists do. I know JoJo will usually say, what does she say when she tells about what I do? She's like, Mommy tells people to stop being racist. That's usually how she describes that. That's my 22-year-old. She's like, that's what I tell people. I'm like, it's some people. But thinking about, these are people that help students with disabilities. They help the school system really hold up to what they say they're about. We're doing so many various things, and they're feeling this weight, disgruntlement. They're feeling anger, fear, frustration, all of those things. That to me makes me feel a little sad and like feeling overwhelmed, right? They're overwhelmed. Do you see that with adults in your school, the feeling of overwhelmed? Look, and now I know who you're talking about. You can talk about it. Just don't say names. Who came to mind? Was it someone in the cafeteria? Particularly maybe someone that manages the lunchroom. That's what you were thinking about? So we're going to talk a little bit about that today, thinking about, right, what you talk about with robots. So the emotions that we hide, or when we keep things in, sometimes it comes out on the littlest ones in the building, and how you kind of navigated that. So thinking about reflective pauses, so a lot of what we do is, Emma has taught me to take a beat, to take a pause. So when we sit down, there's nothing but the two of us and this camera, and we just have to navigate and work through some things. And she often will cause me to be like, oh, wait, I didn't think about it like that. And it's been a reclamation for me, right? I'm looking at little Amber, even though she looks like daddy, but she acts like me. This is my husband, by the way, y'all. So thinking through reflective questions. So in the paper, and I actually forgot to put it in there, y'all, but when you get the QR code, you will get access to the paper. One of the reflective pauses as we go through looking at transcriptions is this, thinking about professional spaces, and we are rewarded for being robotic, right? So remember the conversation we had, and we were talking about leadership, and you were talking about, what do you always say about adults? Listen, but you also said, what do we need? What do we do? Like, how are we showing up in the world? We always think we have to be, say it again?
Robots.
We always think that we have to be robots. So what does that mean? What does that look like for adults?
Blank.
And why do we think we have to show up like robots?
Because probably if you show too much emotion, then someone might say, calm down.
Calm down. And they don't say it in a nice way. And that's the worst thing, right? When you're upset, like, chill. Don't say to chill. I'm not looking at my husband, though. But like, don't ever tell me to chill when I'm upset, right? But it's one of those things, right, when you're like, they might tell you to calm down. And some of those emotions that are in there, when people are talking about fear, overwhelm, this is why we might show up and thinking we have to just be a certain way. because if we express who we truly are, we might be penalized. They might judge us for being too emotional. And if you show up just like a robot, right? And you also, I remember saying, you have so many things to do that we lose what? What do we lose like that we have in childhood?
Creativity.
Creativity. Have any of y'all felt like you lost some of your creativity? And Emma has helped me to reclaim that. Like, we are all creative beings, and we are Christians, so I think oftentimes about God that created the universe, the most creative being of all. Like, that same thing is within us, and we lose it being the robots that we are, right? So thinking about this and the cost of that. So I'm hoping that when you access that paper, you can see what is the cost to trust, to belonging to our humanity when we have to show up as robots, right? Like, what does that look like? And how do we show up as ourselves? And how we got to this is because just talking with Emma, I'm like, man, there's so many things I think about in the school systems and how much light that she has. And when I think we're in a predominantly white area, our district's about 1.65% Black, which is pretty much my kids, right? That I don't ever want her to lose her essence. And I think about me growing up and being the only one that graduated and thinking about there wasn't that many that looked like me. I didn't have teachers that looked like me. And thinking about how do I make sure that she maintains this magic and doesn't ever lose that? And it's been in these conversations, and I will say, you know how we talk about, well, when I was little, Emma, like, I really struggled with my skin color and my hair. And I'm like, have you ever felt like that? And I'm asking you now. So have you felt that way ever about your skin color and your hair color?
No.
But she's like, no, never, right? And so for me, and she's our youngest of three, that she's never felt that way about herself is so beautiful because I had to do so much unlearning. So my hope is that we as practitioners, what we can do, particularly for Black girls, Black boys, people that are from the margins, is that they never have to embody those narratives, inherit those narratives, and they're just not doing the work of unlearning like I'm doing at 45, right? She does not hold those stories. First grade, someone talked about your skin color, and what did you do?
Told you.
And then what did we do?
We talked with the counselor.
We had a meeting. But what did you say? Do you remember what you said when he's talked about your skin? What was your response?
It didn't feel good.
It didn't feel good, but what did you say when you got home? Did you feel like there's something wrong with my skin?
No.
What did you think? You remember what you said?
No, I don't remember.
You were talking about you're saying you loved your skin and you love your hair. And that was not my experience. And to hear that, because I'm like, of course she's going to feel the same way that I felt. We're in this white area. And she's like, no, I've never felt that way, has been a tremendous blessing. So I'm thinking, how can we that are in these fields doing this work ensure that our students never have to inherit those narratives, right? Internalize those. So part of what we do is thinking about, we're in conversation with how does this look universally? How does it look for a healing center practice? If we're culturally adapting these tools, looking at the difference too, because I do a lot of work with youth, right? And we've talked about this. We talked about Easton and how, like, right? He was like, oh my gosh, my BFF, Dr. Sessoms. How I do this work in schools and realizing how it's really performative. You know, there's usually a rupture when I come in. There's usually a racist incident. People bring me in, get the Black lady to talk to, like, about racism. And I'm like, I'm here for systems level work. And you see how performative it is. You're like, oh, I heard the students. You talk to the students and they'll say, they don't listen to us, or they offered me this and that's not what we asked for. It's not making any meaningful change. But in talking and really learning how we have to decenter ourselves and really be emotionally attuned so that we can really hear what you're saying and actually move towards action has been a practice even for me that I'm hoping that we can practice that in the schools, right? What does that look like? Using storytelling in our tradition as Black women, Black girls, and this is what we do. We talk about our narratives and our lived experience, and there's wisdom in that. What does that look like? And how do we imagine differently? How do we freedom dream? We love talking about that. So just quickly, like, we walk through a framework with this and think about 3D, we're living in 3D power. 3D power tools is how do we uncover these narratives that we have, right? These narratives, these power structures. What does it look like so we can be values aligned? We talk about what our VIA, this is not gonna hurt you. She looked like, don't point that thing at me. The values, and remember we did the VIA character strengths assessment, and do you remember one of your core strengths?
Fairness.
Fairness is huge for you, and this is why when she made that face earlier about the lunch lady was being, was being unfair. And we were able to process that because it's something that agitated her, and we have to really lean into what's agitating you about that and how do I help you navigate that so that you can have this voice and this agency. And then also moving towards action. What do we do with that so that we don't become robots? Because that's what we do in adulthood. I'm really frustrated. I'm really sad. I feel shame. And then we internalize it and we don't move towards action because we have to play the game, right? And I am seeing you're like, I'm not about that game, right? That game doesn't work. I can still call people in. We talk about calling in versus calling out in love so that we can work towards action. And so some of these research questions we looked at is really looking at us in this dyad, this relationship that we have, not just being like, I'm the sage on the stage, I'm learning from her, right? That is the gift that Emma has, and thinking about how she resists adultification. Like, she is 11 years old, but she also has a lot of wisdom. And even like when we think about with Graham, remember when you were telling Graham in the car at one time about how you felt and you didn't like what she said to you and you told her exactly how she hurt your feelings?
What?
And I remember it because I was thinking about that was me when I was a little bit. It wasn't the same response. But she's like, that wasn't going to work out well for me. That was a pop across the face, right? Sorry, Graham, but we know this to be true, right? Generationally, that's how it was, but you were just expressing, you weren't disrespectful. But I think that is the thing we say, stay in a child's place. You know how we talk about that? Like, girl, mind your business, stay in a child's place. But you are a human being who has emotions, and you should be able to express them. You should be able to tell someone if you are offended or hurt, and that you have the language for that is powerful. But what happens in adulthood is we don't often have the language, or we're really caught off guard when someone little does that, right? Like, how dare you? Who you think you are, girl? If you don't go, right, to that class and sit down and be quiet. Also thinking about how does this look in our curiosity cards or the questions that we ask ourselves? What does that look like? How we co-regulate emotion. So thinking about the episode with Uncle Avery and how, right, I'm like, I'm not going to cry. And then I start crying. Or how you just kind of like will rub my back and we'll say it's okay, right? These are the things that we do. We can say it's okay because it's showing love, right? Outward of love. And then also think about intergenerationally, how do I change? How do I shift myself from not being the sage to being, or the manager to being the learner? And how does Emma foster her agency there? So here's the themes that really emerged here, and thinking about, we used the 3D power tools to kind of help frame that. We took the 20 top podcast interviews. We released, what's today, Wednesday, Thursday? We released episode 44. But we took our top 20 episodes at the time that I was working on this and came up with the themes. And one of them is systemic critique. So we're going to walk through that together. So we'll walk through some of these in clips and process that in real time. Anti-robot, which we walk through, about discovery being like, how do I navigate some of these narratives, moving to leadership and listening. And Emma, that's a big one. She's making fun of me right now with her eyes because I use my hands a lot.
I'm not.
She's like, Mommy, she usually will mock me when I'm making my hands, but I talk with my hands a lot. You're not? Okay, sorry. And then thinking about discernment, thinking about the safety of a village. Like, this is part of your village here, Emma, and the beauty of that. And you remember when you were on the stage, you spoke to 7th grade girls. It was 300 7th grade girls. She goes on stage. She's like, Mommy, they're older than me. I said, but they can learn from you too. And one of the things we follow up on, you were like, what did you say about how you were uncomfortable or you were nervous when you got on stage, but then what shifted, what happened, and why?
I felt more comfortable because they were like talking to me and they were like, yes.
Right, they were giving you feedback like, okay, yes, girl, like, right, cheering you on, and that helps you feel affirmed. And to think about that when you were that little person, or how we do that for our kids, that when they say something that resonates, do we let them know that, or we just be like, okay, move on to the next thing? Like, just giving them that moment of validation and how transformative that can be. So we're going to walk through a little bit of these. Such a great conversation today. So here is one. Here's how we usually close it out with Chicken Nugget Wisdom too. So we're going to watch this and watch our interaction. Here's what I went through, and I'm like, ooh, as I'm processing in real time, and see what sticks out to you, and we'll process it a little bit. Such a great conversation with you today. So any final wisdom nuggets for the good people listening today? As you fix your glasses, you're so studious. What do you have to say for the people?
Listen.
Drag that out, listen. Because
if you don't listen to people, then you can't listen to yourself.
Oh, you can't listen to yourself. So say more about that, because I mean, you can't just drop the mic and leave that there. I need you to unpack that a little bit for me.
If you think that you're better than everyone else and you don't listen to anyone, then how do you know that's your true self?
Come on. So it's kind of like people can be mirrors for you too when you're in a relationship, and people can reflect back maybe some things you don't like about yourself. And if you're not listening, you can't learn and grow and evolve and become a better human being. Ooh, that is, sometimes I feel like you just drop the super deep stuff as a 10-year-old that I don't know if people are picking up on. So I'm going to have to unpack that later, because that's good. So if you don't listen, you're not listening to yourself. And you're not being true to yourself. And with that, y'all, it's a wrap.
Nuggets.
Nuggets. Emma Nuggets. Right. So thinking through that, I don't know do you remember how you came up with nuggets? Like I was asking you about wisdom nuggets, and you're like, chicken nugget wisdom. So it's become like a thing about chicken nugget wisdom. So thinking about listen and thinking about the work that I do, I literally do work with leaders, and I told you what did I say? The hardest thing to do is girl, they struggle to listen, which is often why they call me in, right? And me having to help to amplify the staff's voice or whoever they're serving, and they even struggle to decenter themselves, to not get defensive with that. And for you at then 10 to say that is the biggest leadership quality, right? But I also want you to notice, did you hear when they were watching the clip, did you hear the audience? What did you hear? Right? So do you want to ask them maybe what was resonating with them? What do you think? You want to ask them?
Sure.
Go ahead.
What should I do?
You can just ask them, why were you, what was it that was sticking out to you? What was that, the nugget? What did that chicken nugget mean to you?
Can they call out?
Yeah, they can call out. You do whatever
Okay.
you want, girl. It's your thing.
What resonated with you?
I think that the thing that resonated with me is that part about if you don't listen to yourself, then you're not going to listen to anybody else. Because the first voice that we hear is our own, in our thoughts. And if we're not listening to ourselves, that impacts our judgment. Because there's a voice inside that says, do that or don't do that. If we're not listening to that voice and we're just being guided by whatever is around us, then we're missing out on our judgment. So you are indeed wise in speaking that, because self-talk is one of those critical things that makes the difference between good decision making and not. You gonna give her
So what stood out for me is just the way in which you connected the humanity to each other, right? We need each other in this world. We're not here by ourselves. So the fact that you deeply connected it by such a simple question to, we have to listen to others too. We're not just living on this isolated island. So that's really what stood out to me.
Maybe one more, anything else emerge?
I'm honestly still processing it. Because that's why I said I had to unpack it. Don't ask me to help me unpack it. When you said, I thought you were going to say something like, okay, if you can't listen to others, then you can't learn from them. You know, I'm used to hearing that pretty often, but you said, if you don't listen to others, you don't listen to yourself. I'm like, hold on, what does this mean? And I'm like, you know, it makes me think of other things, like how, you know, there's a saying, you can only love others as much as you love yourself. And I'm like, okay. And then also it just shows that you have only the capacity to do for yourself what you do for others. And so if you can't listen to others, then you cannot listen to yourself either. So I'm like, I'm just thinking about it in different ways right now. I'm still processing. But that was a good chicken nugget right there. Right?
That's a hardy one. No sauce needed, right? And I think that's the beauty, though, when we give children the space, they have so much wisdom. We just don't give them the space to do it. And if you take the time to pause, it should make you be like, oh, wait, I got to unpack that, girl, because I'm like, what did she just say? But I think that's the power of you, and that's the power of youth, that we as school psychologists have to do that work. We're so busy being robots and getting reports done and doing all the things. But when we pause and we're just with you, like, wow, that is profound, Emma, right? And so I think that's beautiful. So thank y'all for helping to do that. And also, again, thinking about with that exchange, what you'll see is it's transcribed and thinking about what does this look like for you? If you listening is a prerequisite for authentic leadership, what shifts in you when a child unsettles your certainty? There should be a shift. And oftentimes this shift brings discomfort and you're like, I don't like that shift. I know this little child ain't trying to check me or she's smarter than me. And she does, she texts me all the time. I think one of the first episodes I said something about, we were talking about Michelle Obama and how, I think it wasn't Maya Angelou, it was Toni Morrison was like, you should meet your children with gladness. And Michelle was like, oh, when Sasha Malia would come downstairs, I'd be like, you're ashy. Oh no, I said that. She said, you're wrinkled, get your clothes together. And she's like, you do that. And I was like, oh, and we're filming. I'm like, oh, okay. We do. And I was like, what? She's like, you were like, she's like, you're ashy, you're this, you're that. And she goes, and what did you tell me to do? What do I need to do?
You need to work on it.
She said, but your actual words in an episode were like, you need to tone it down, mommy. You need to tone it down. But a lot of people, especially generationally, would see that as disrespect. But what I'm learning and what I'm shifting to doing is honoring, she is a human being, and I have to learn how to honor and respect her. You hear this in schools where educators will be like, I demand respect. And the kids, particularly that look like me, are like, you don't respect me, I'm not respecting you, right? And they don't realize it's twofold. So I have to honor that she has a voice and she's calling me in love, and it's not disrespectful. Now, when you get your voice, I'm like, I don't know who you're talking to. We do that still too. We're not that over in this household. But it's a balance in honoring her voice and helping her to develop that agency. So, Emma, so when adults really listen to you, what shifts in you?
I think what shifts in me is I feel more comfortable and I feel more seen.
Mm-hmm. But what makes you feel more comfortable about? So when I'm listening, did you maybe have some fear before? And what kind of settles you being like, oh, I feel comfortable now?
If they understand.
If they understand, right. Because some of the things I know you've said before were maybe you had a fear of telling me the truth. And remember you told me and I was like, what did you think was going to happen? You thought it was going to be this whole thing. And I was like, you said it and we're okay. We're still here. We're processing together. So sometimes we can get, right? And adults are saying that same thing. They express that they have fear too with their boss or their supervisor, all the things, and they're afraid to say the thing. But if you have someone that centers you and listens and says, I understand, it makes so much of a difference. But think how many of us are in school settings, workplaces, and we don't receive that. And then again, we go back to that robot thing again. So being seen is really, really important to you. And particularly that we are hyper visible because of our skin, our hair, all the ways that we show up in this world and look different. But also at the same time, we can feel really invisible. So navigating both of those. So if we can create those safe spaces, right? Oh my gosh, doesn't something shift? Yeah, and it shifts in you. So I think that's powerful. Yeah, you feel more seen and more comfortable. We don't want you feeling scared and anxious all day, right? That's not healthy. So let's look at another one. I think when the documentary opened up, they were asking about how the Black Barbie came to be. Remember the lady was conceptualizing or she was thinking about, here's how I think it happened. They had never had a Black person before and they got in the boardroom and they said, what about a Black Barbie? And everyone's like, I never thought about that before. And it was like this light bulb went off that they're like, there's other people in the world that don't look like me. And I think that was one of my takeaways from the film. Clearly, right? But I think in a world that makes dolls and it's consumerism and you think about we're only going to consume or we only going to buy for people that look like the majority, you're leaving out so many people like us. Millions of people, millions of billions of people. So you think about now this world, Black and brown people are the global majority. And if we're still centering white people, what does that mean for us that exist all over the globe and how we influence the culture all over the globe?
It's
so
like the planets.
Yeah.
Yeah, the planets have their own places and the white people are in the middle.
What planet? You have to unpack that for me. What do you mean?
Wait, the sun is in the middle, right?
The Earth is circling it?
Yeah, and then the earth is the black people, and then this is the sun, and they're circling around it.
Oh, I get you. I love the way your brain works. So you're thinking about because we're centering whiteness, and then we would be the planet that's circling around whiteness in proximity to it, but never getting close enough to it. This is who I live with. This is who I live with. So for the people that said it's deep, like what's coming up for you? What are you thinking?
Going around the issues instead of
Going around the issues.
just pointing it out, right? Going around in circles instead of like being direct in it. Or like if you see specifically with like black people where it's like there's certain systemic issues, like you find other means instead of answering or addressing the direct issue. You go around it.
I thought about the importance of the sun and how we need it to live, and how folks be centering themselves like we need them to live. Okay? All right? And how something that you said about, like, you know, we're getting close to it, in proximity to it, but never really there. And the reality is they ain't there, but we keep putting them there. All right, go ahead. Right. I feel a little hot now.
I think about safety. So you can't look at the sun for too long or get, necessarily in close proximity because it's unsafe. So if you approach a certain level of white spaces, or if you try to infiltrate certain things or change certain things, it can become unsafe for you as a black individual.
If you don't have on sunglasses, but if you got protection.
Got it.
No, that's good. What do you hear? Is anything resonate that you hadn't think about? See how you're making these things come up for people? You're like, ooh, that makes sense. Isn't that powerful? Yeah, that's powerful, and that's what you're doing in the room. Yeah, so I love that. So, and I think for me it's powerful because we think that kids are too little to handle these conversations, particularly kids that have historically been pushed out. We have always had the language, right? We have always had the language, but oftentimes adults or those that have been in the majority or dominant culture get really uncomfortable. Like, could you imagine, like, I mean, there's some people, and I'm not gonna lie, in this room, I'm like, ooh, did you tense up? And think about that. As you're thinking through, what are you feeling when this, I don't know if you were 10 or 11 at this time, said that.
I think I was 10.
But thinking about how does it make your body feel to hear a little black girl talk about the sun and we are just circling around it. And that's how she sees the world and making sense of it for her. And what does that look like? So thinking about that and reflective pause would be, in your school system, what, maybe who, but I'm thinking systemically, right, is positioned as the sun, right? And who is required to orbit it? And what would it take to redesign that solar system so more students are centered? What would that take? And oftentimes we know what it takes, but we're not willing to do that, right? Because it's going to cost me something, or those that feel like I am the sun and I can't give up that spot, right? So for you, Emma, how does that system that you're talking about, how does it affect kids who think, like kind of like how Dr. Rogers saying, like, that think that they're the sun, that they're the center? What does that do? Is that helpful to them to think that they're the center? How do you think it affects them?
Because they're probably gonna be like, oh yeah, I'm the best their whole life, since in their like young age, they're like, oh yeah, I'm the best. And as you grow up, you're probably gonna think it more.
And then they turn into our future leaders, right? So it's like, but that is like, but think about it, if you were a center, so oftentimes in this work, we want to, like, when DEI was like the thing, right, when we were in, because now I think, what did you say, DEI is dead now, right? We got rid of DEI. That was in the most recent stated the presidential message. But thinking about when I do this work, when we're talking about, we can't just, yes, we're centering those who haven't been centered. So we're making sure that we're amplifying Emma's voice, but we can't leave out those who believe and who have been historically centered. Because what you're teaching them is that they are better than simply because of the hue of their skin. And that is just as dangerous to teach white children or those that have privilege that they are entitled to something and not disrupting that. So that work is also important, but I think we leave that piece out a lot. Because it's so invisible, whiteness is so invisible, but it is something that we have to talk about. And again, our kids have the language And we don't realize it because we don't hold space. And she has the language for this. So what are we doing to navigate that? That she doesn't feel like she is ostracized or should be ashamed of who she is. And also that people that are from dominant culture that believe that they're the son think that they're better and they grow up to be that. And it just continues to perpetuate this division in our society. So you're talking about not just now. Emma can already see how this perpetuates into the future, which I think is powerful. Now think about it from the other perspective. So those that are orbiting that, how does that affect them?
They'll probably like feel bad about themselves because they're like, oh, that person's better, and they're probably gonna compare the person that's the son to themselves.
Mm-hmm. And comparison is hard, and I had a lot of that experience growing up, right? Do you ever feel like you do that?
Not really.
Not. Good job, Mom and Dad. Not really. Yeah, but thinking about, our hair or skin, like how we show up. And sometimes it could be even something as simple as you'll be like, but, everyone at school has this. And she'll be like, I know what you're going to say. If everyone, right? But even something as simple as like how you dress, those small little insidious ways can really show up in how I have to be like the cool kids. We talk about that often because I want you to be yourself always, right? And what does that mean?
Cool kids.
Right. The cool group, right? Right? So let's see here. We're still going to do a time. Ooh, wait. So I'll do this. So, okay, I will set this one up, and she might get a little uncomfortable with this one. What I thought about for her 11th birthday was, oh my goodness, there's something powerful about showing love to people. And I just had a session earlier today and was super uncomfortable because people were coming up to me like, oh, Dr. Sessions. I'm like, please stop. And then my colleagues are saying, sit in it. Because I say that and I'm like, okay, I have to sit in this. So I asked people to send in videos for Emma for her 11th birthday. So she's watching the first bit of that and you'll see the exchange. So after she watches some of these videos and how we process this.
You should have brought tissues.
I should have brought tissues. You need tissues. Maybe the reason that I don't have any more tears is I had to edit this and I was like, getting emotional as I was editing it. But so I guess that's my first question is like, what made you get emotional? What made you cry?
Because I didn't expect all these people to like get these things, and like I didn't realize like I had changed people's like life.
That makes you emotional. Why? Was it happy tears? Why are they happy tears?
Because I just changed so many people's lives, and I'm just happy to do that.
Mm-hmm. That's one of your purposes in life, I think, Emma. Like you have such a compassionate heart, but not only like you're changing adults' lives. For Auntie Ellen to say that about you, she was having such a rough time, and for you to give her that card and how it gave her joy. Did you hear the part where she said that she hadn't heard herself laugh in so long? And you were able to do that for her, and then people that in her community were able to see that note, and it brought them joy too. So I think it's such a beautiful gift that you're discovering this at age 11, 10 and 11, that you've been able to do this for people. And I think people search a lifetime to be able to find out the kind of impact that they have on people's lives. And the fact that you're finding that out now, I think is such a beautiful gift. And I can't think of any better birthday gift than that. So that's why I wanted to do this for you. So thinking about that, right, I know that made you're like, oh, I don't want to listen to this, right? It was just beautiful to see that she would get emotional, that so many people, and I didn't know people were going to send in. She had a NAACP Image Award winner author that was like, oh my gosh, Emma, she wrote Black Joy, that wanted to participate. And to think about, she is 11 years old and that adults, and it's a running joke in her house if we're out in the street, oh my gosh, Emma, like I was in a meeting at work today and I didn't know what to say to my supervisor, but I thought of you and I had the courage to do what I had to say. She's 11, and I think it's so powerful for her to hear that back to her. And I think about, had I at 11 had that level of affirmation, the unlearning, like it wouldn't have been so much undoing, and that she's getting that gift now brings me so much joy as her mother to see that. And so I asked you to think about, like, when was the last time you named explicitly the ways a child's wisdom has shaped your thinking or changed your practice? And have you shared that with them? Like, have you even thought about it? Have you paused long enough to think about, like, they shifted something within me, and what would that do to that child for you to tell them that? There is power in that. That is transformative work. I think about her and the way that I witnessed what she felt and how that is transformational to her. And we have an opportunity to do that for our youth. And do we take the time to really think about how they have impacted our lives and share that with them? We might go home and be like, oh my gosh, no, share it with that student, regardless of their age. Like, it is transformative and healing centered work. So thinking about this and, where do we go from here? I think about moving beyond compliance. Again, they bring me in, bring in the black lady to solve the race issues. Oh my gosh, we have a racial rupture. There's something that happened. And I have to be very clear about my positionality. Like, you think I'm just here to do the race work, but I am systems level, right? And thinking about how do we ask the questions? I'm a very curious person. I call myself a perpetual toddler. I got that from Emma. I remember because, when kids ask why, and the game is just to figure out how we get to the root so that they can stop asking why and move on. And that is our job. Like, we talk about root cause analysis, and that's our job to get to why. What does that look like in our practice to pose these questions in these rooms, even to ourselves, starting with ourselves? And I think, someone shared that earlier. What does that look like tier 1, tier 2? Like, what does that look like culturally responsible to ask those questions? Not just the benign, everyday questions, those hard questions. What skill sets would you have to develop to call people in, right? Like Emma does, like in love. Adult capacity building is something I really feel is missing, right? We talk about, we have to do SEL, we have to do all this curriculum stuff in schools, and oftentimes educators, practitioners will say to me, you want me to do this work? I don't have the skills myself. I am barely holding it together, but you want me to do this whole thing? I need help. What does that look like? Is there a place for us? What help do we need as practitioners or those doing this work to be able to do that on behalf of the systems that we're serving? And making sure that youth are our guides, right? Emma's dropping, y'all are in here like, okay, man, that's deep. I'm still unpacking that. Do we even give them the space to do that, right? And I see your head shaking no. Like, we do it very performatively. It is just very much like, okay, I'm gonna hear from you. And we think that's the work. That's bare minimum, right? You're a human being. I should be honoring you and what you have to say. But making sure that shifting, Stacey's doing it now. Shifting that towards meaningful change. So what I tell people is, like, when people are speaking, when youth are speaking, don't hear it as complaining. Right? And that's what we hear it as an adults, like, oh, they're complaining. They don't know how hard it is to be this job. They just kids, they don't know. There's an opportunity that they're saying, like, can we listen to hear that and shift towards change alongside them, not leaving them out of the conversation. Because oftentimes it's like, oh, I made a decision. And then they're like, I didn't ask for that, or that was stupid. And they will tell you straight up if you ask them, right? Right? Like you're going to tell me. So co-constructing that along with them, alongside the students. And Emma, I'm just thinking for you, do you want to hear something? We have a couple minutes from the audience, like maybe like take a couple questions, but we always close out with her chicken nugget wisdom. But you can either decide to do that now or you want to take a question or so from the audience. What do you think?
Question.
All right. You want to ask it? Oh.
I have a question, but I thought this is such a powerful conversation, Emma and Dr. Amber, because as a school psychologist, we do work with kids every day, and it is impactful to the work we do when we work with them from wide range of ages. And when we sat here and we began to talk about hearing their voices, I thought that was so powerful because we questioned ourselves, when was the last time we heard a child's voice? And we said, thank you for letting me see a mirror of myself and seeing myself grow. And I thought about a lot of the service work that I do with the kids outside of my job. And that's where I hear a lot of those stories of resilience, of empathy and courage. And I do have those conversations with those kids because they prompt me to be a better human being myself. And a lot of people don't have those conversations as adults that we're having today about giving a voice to a child. And I think when I have those moments, some of the kids, or their parents have cancer, or they've been through crisis and they've been through the CPS system. And those are the kids I kind of connect with, and I hear their stories, and maybe those are the ones that I tell them, hey, you really impacted me, because it takes me back to when I was a child, and I didn't have those experiences. But they're so brave to be able to have those conversations with me. However, I can also push that into the school setting, because sometimes we're busy and we have all these evaluations, we have all these consultations, and I just did a little minute of reflection. I was like, yeah, I do a lot of my services, like outside of my work, my volunteering, and this community I'm very passionate with, but my day-to-day work, not so often. So I thought it was just a really great conversation to have. It wasn't really a question, but I just thought it was a powerful conversation to have with a room full of school psychologists about the power of innocence. Because I feel like that's what you're showing us, the power of innocence to push into resilience and the future. So thank you.
I have a question.
I love this.
Right. Emma, I have a question. So, being intentional about making sure that you feel comfortable as a kiddo and like any kiddo in general when you're asking them to share with you, like what about an adult makes you feel safe to do that?
What was the question?
What makes you feel safe to share with other, like, of course, with your mom, but also like if you were to share with adults at school about just things that you're not so happy with, or things that you're happy with, or just kind of being comfortable to talk?
If they understand and if they like listen.
And do you want to give a recent example of that? I'm thinking about with the lunch lady and the letter that you wrote, and how did that end up? What did you do? What did you request?
I didn't. Well,
What happened in the following day after you gave her the letter to tell her the ways that
they stopped doing Falcon Cash.
So you came up with some solutions, but also did you requested a classroom meeting? Yeah. So that was a way that she, Emma was able to name, right, how you felt. You had bullet points of naming how you felt. And then she said, I would like to have a classroom meeting. And I was like, well, be prepared. And he had it the next day, but I think that's the way. What made you feel comfortable being like, oh, let's have a classroom meeting. I'm in, let's go, let's do this.
So people could be seen, because I've been hearing like negative things from different students about lunch. And I was like, I need to make them feel comfortable and not make them feel that way anymore.
And that goes back to the connection you were talking about earlier, Dr. Rogers was talking about. Like, that is one of your values, is right, that you were not just looking out for yourself. It wasn't just a you issue. You're like, mommy, so-and-so and so, a lot of people feel this way. And because fairness is really important to you, kindness and those things, love are important to you. So you were embodying that, and you wanted to do something about that. Yeah, so I think for you, it's like also other people are uncomfortable and I want to make sure I can stand in the gap. At 11 years old. Yeah. So let's look here. We're like 1 minute, maybe like we have time for one more. I know y'all probably have to get one more session, and then we'll have you close out with your chicken nugget wisdom. Look,
If nobody else has.
I have a quick question. My sister, Emma, are you running for, does your school have like class presidents or anything like that? Because I think you did very good into that role.
Well, I don't think we do class presidents at our school, so.
But you've been thinking about, I know middle school makes you a little nervous, but what are you in? What programs are you in at school? The one with Mrs. Kalas is called?
Oh, Helping Hands.
Helping Hands. And you went through, so we have a Club Ophelia in our school, if you're familiar with that work. So she was learning about relational aggression and learning those positive things. And you're a newspaper club, so she's able to write articles about what she's passionate about. And is there anything? I feel like there's always something. I might have to pick you up from school for something. But those are the big ones, yeah, I think. But they have, I mean, we know, like in elementary, like SEL is great in elementary, and then you get up in higher levels. But I think that's great, so thank you for it. And I think there's power in that, I guess, an adult speaking and saying, like, I see the leader in you, and that would be great to do that, giving her that permission to do that, yeah. So will you have some chicken nugget wisdom? What do you think, after everything you heard today, even thinking about how you felt coming in and how you feel now?
I think I think most of you guys are school psychologists, and I think you should take notes and listen to kids more, because they have a lot of wisdom.
You have a lot of clock it.
Awesome.
Good job. You did it. You did it. So here, y'all, if you scan this QR code, this will take you to a survey that will also allow you to access our paper. Some additional feedback on there would be great and helpful, so thank you. I appreciate y'all so much. That your village just keeps continuing to grow, Emma, and the love that you extended to my daughter today, again, is just a tremendous blessing to me as a practitioner and as a mama. And you got some pretty important people in the room. All y'all are important, but thank you just for coming out and just showing her some love. That provides a little bit of a healing for me. And you want to say bye.
I'm so glad you joined me and Mommy for this episode of Living in 3D Power. I hope you like it. Now do me a favor before you leave. Subscribe to our Substack and make sure you subscribe to wherever you listen to podcasts too. And hey, do me another favor. Share this episode with a friend or family member. If something we said made you laugh, made you smile, or it might mean something to them, just send it away. Okay, one more favor. That's a lot of favors, I know. Head over to the comments on our social media. Tell us what made you say, "That's deep, bro." Because your words encourage other people and they encourage us too. See you next time.